Welcome to the Marketing Mortgages Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I have with me Tamsin Stokes of Tamed Administration. And these guys work with firms who either want to grow but don't want to commit to employing admin staff, or would rather have a specific part of the process handled by someone else. That's a good start to the podcast, isn't it? Puts everyone at ease when the host mucks up the introduction. So Tamed are experts in the administration field, and they've been in business for the last 5 years. I've spoken to hundreds of mortgage brokers over the last 4 years since we've been in business, and these are the guys that keep on coming up over and over again. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners have heard of these guys. So we're honoured to have you on the podcast, Tamsin. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Tamsin's working from home today. They've got a lovely office, but I think you thought it might be a bit quieter at home to record a podcast.
That was the plan. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Whether it'll work.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So Ed was going to join us as well, but he was saying that it might be a bit hard with three people bouncing conversations. So Tamsin and Ed run Tamed Solutions. Now, can you tell us the story behind the name of Tamed, which is spelt Tamed?
Yeah. So when we first were looking at names for the business, one of the things that came up was trying to have a name that encompassed both of us and our personalities, but also in terms of trying to think about, what we can do for admin. So Ed came up with the name Tamed. I thought it was a fantastic name. We'll tame and control your admin, because for some people it's a bit of an uncontrollable beast. And then it wasn't until we'd been in business for about 6 months and somebody referred to us as Tamed. And I was like, well, it's tamed, it's a word. And Ed said, no, actually, that's how I came up with Tamed, Tam, Ed. So yeah, it took me a while to get onto that one.
I love that because no, not at all. When I first heard of your business, I had never had any dealings with you. And in my head, I knew you as Tamed because somebody said to me, it's Tamsin and Ed that have set up the company. But Tamed has a much better meaning than Tamed. So I love that story. And I think that just shows how personable you are. You're like, yeah, that's what I thought. Love it. Okay, so for all the listeners that are listening, of course, and if anybody's watching us on YouTube, can you give us a bit of a background to how you got into setting up this business, what your background is within the industry, please?
Yeah, so I started in financial services when I was 21, 22. So going back quite a few years ago now, I started as a cashier working for a big high street bank. Probably still one of my favourite jobs. I used to love refilling the cash machine on a Friday, ready for the weekend.
You actually refilled it manually?
Yeah, you have to refill them manually.
Yeah, never knew that.
We had like a special bank card you'd have to take round to the front of the branch and put it into the machine, and you'd have to withdraw £30 to make sure that you put the 20s and the 10s in the right
place,
in the right cassettes, and the cassettes in the right places. Honestly, one of my favourite jobs. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it.
Love that. There we go. Learn something new. I thought it was just somebody comes in, plugs these big vats of cash in, and then they automatically get put out. But you have to manually put them in.
All the cash out of the vault and then put it onto the table, unwrap it, load it into the cassettes, shove it in.
Cool.
It's probably all changed now.
Yeah.
So I started doing that when I was 21, 22. And then progressed through the bank in terms of moving up to being just a normal customer advisor on current accounts and loans and savings, and then did mortgages there. Then from there moved into working for a large independent brokerage in Bath. And then had a little bit of a break for a couple of years after I had my youngest child. And then I actually worked for Primis. So I started working for Primis in compliance, which people don't hold it against me. So I worked in the compliance team in Primis for probably about 3 or 4 years. And then from there moved into more of the broker services side of things. So I managed for the majority of my time the commissions team in Primis. So I did that. I was there all in for probably about 10 years. And
Oh,
I
wow.
dabbled a bit in financial promotions. I managed that team for a while, a little bit in broker services as well, and a little bit in the toolbox migration work from when Primus moved over to toolbox after taking on personal touch. So lots of different areas of the business in terms of, and the advice journey in looking at it, I suppose,
Yeah.
from different angles, being an advisor, being in compliance, and then working in the network space and understanding, I suppose, what advisors go through on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. And that's, I think, speaking to a lot of people that have dealt with you, that's your USP essentially. You have that knowledge. You've been there, you've done it. And I haven't really heard of a company that does it like you guys. I really like companies like yours that spot a niche within a specific market and go, there's nobody doing similar to what we've done. It's like a niche, and you've gone, that, you know what I mean? We could fill that gap. When did the kind of light bulb spark go off and you were like, there's nobody else doing this? And what made you want to set up your own business and do it?
So I think probably when I remember when I was working in the compliance team in Primus, sort of early days there, another lady that we worked with, we'd always say, "Oh, do you know what? We could. What advisors
We could,
need people like us? We could do this. We could do this." And I think it was always almost a bit of a pipe dream of one of those. Oh yeah, I could work for myself. And then I think the more time you spend around people that work for themselves and run their own business, one, I suppose it becomes a bit more, I suppose, aspirational, but at the same time achievable, because you think, actually, these people are doing it. I could do that. And I don't come from a background here. No one else in my family runs their own business, never have. So it's not something that I've had sort of modelled in
it's
terms of.
alien to us, isn't it? That's what it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. I've always worked in the employed space. And then Ed and I were talking about it, and he's just like, if you want more flexibility in your life, you want to take a bit more control, why not give it a go? Let's just,
Just go and do it, you two.
just give it a go. And I think, as with any big business, when you reach a certain level in a business, and ultimately in order to progress, you're really almost stepping into dead man's shoes.
Yeah.
So you've got to sort of think about where you want to go and where you want to be. And actually, for me, being able to work a bit more flexibly, have more time with the kids, be able to pick and
That's
choose
why
where
you did
and
it.
when I am, it helps. So so we just thought, time to put my big girl pants on
And get
give
it
it a
done,
go.
yeah. I think it's true, isn't it? I think it's, I don't want to say easier at all, but if you grew up in a household where your parents were running businesses and you saw the big ups and downs of running a business, it might give you either allow you to do it a bit more comfortably or completely put you off it. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're in a household where they're employed, like my mum and dad were employed at the same companies for 25 plus years, you don't know any different. You kind of think, well, running a business is a big, scary thing. But then actually, when you do it, you realise nobody knows what they're doing. Let's be honest. Nobody's got the blueprint of running a business, have they? Nobody ever wakes up in the morning and goes, I've got this. I know exactly what I'm doing. So
You
anybody
do,
that's listening,
just follow
it
these
is something
5
like this.
simple steps and you'll be an amazing success. Just
Load of rubbish. You've got loads of twists and turns to do. So talking about that, what would you say? Obviously, there's a lot of tools out there at the moment that's helping people running their business. A question that our LinkedIn audience wanted to know from our guests is, what is your favourite tool that helps you run your business at the minute, Tamsin?
So we're really fortunate when it comes to technology, because I've talked about my background in the industry. The benefit that Ed brings is that he has his main background is IT and
Oh, okay.
specifically broker systems. So when Ed worked for Primus, Ed worked in business change and working in CRM systems and leveraging
Right.
technology to make people's lives easier. So when it comes to organising the business, he's almost, he is our secret weapon from that side of things.
Right.
If there's a system that can be used and integrated, we'll use it. So one of the big systems that we use, because it keeps things super simple for us, is we use something called Smartsheet.
Okay.
And we pretty much run the day-to-day admin side and track our cases on that, because it's online, dead simple, easy to set up. all the team can use it at the same time. We can condense quite complex information down into sort of very simple cards. And ultimately, we run it on a card system. So a case comes in, it goes into Smartsheet, a card is created, we assess it, we move it into the action column, and it moves into somebody's dealing with it.
Okay.
That sends off a communication to the broker to let them know it's been picked up and who's handling their case. And we can keep track of everything from there in a really simple way, but still have all the information.
Yes, it sounds like something like Trello, where you're moving it from... and do you know what's funny? Before we asked that question, I never had that question within the podcast, but last 6 months we started to ask it. And I've realised how many brokers don't... They still use the software that's provided to them by the network, but they'll also use something like Trello, like a Smartsheet, like a HubSpot to manage their business.
An Excel spreadsheet.
I think that's the old school ones. But I think people are moving away to say networks are great, but you almost don't want to rely everything with the network, because if you've ever left that particular network, they have control of everything, all of your data in one place, and you never be able to take that data with you, essentially.
No, and I think that you're hearing more and more stories as well about networks that are actually, if you want to extract that data and take it with you, they're charging you for it. And, network systems are brilliant, and working in the network space, I'm a big advocate for it. I think it's a great thing. You've got lots of support there, and there's going to be a network pretty much to suit most
everybody,
because everybody wants different things. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And that's the same with the CRM. Every network is going to love their CRM. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. But just because it works for firm A, it's not going to necessarily work for firm B. And they're never going to have a solution that suits everybody. And that's fine. That's, ultimately it has to work for the network.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. It's work for the network, and then it doesn't really matter who else it works for. But it is true that more and more people are exploring different pieces of software other than this is one size fits all, as you said. Anyway, we won't go into systems because we are here to talk about and extract as much knowledge from you as we can about admin. So what would you say is the number one thing advisors can do in their cases? And we're going to talk about how you help people with cases. But if it was just Joe and Sue Bloggs running their company and they're submitting things to lenders, what would you say is the number one thing advisors can do to increase their chances of getting a case through the first time?
I think it starts almost before the advice process. It starts at the very beginning. About more and more lenders now are going more in depth into bank statements. So it's about making sure that your clients are aware. Get your bank statements one in order, but speak to your friends. It's no longer funny to
do.
Put the little rude reference, the jokey references on. It's not. Well, it is funny, but it's not when you can't buy your dream home. So
Santander released something, didn't they, the other day to say that they're taking it seriously now.
Taking really, really seriously. So, bank statements, credit files. Again, the amount of times when I've done a dip for somebody and it's come back as a decline, and the broker's got no idea why, and then it turns out actually, I forgot to tell you about that car that I've got on finance because the car allowance, so it doesn't count. So I think it's about educating your clients on what actually a debt is from that side.
Okay, right. Wow, as foundation level as that.
Yeah, because clients don't necessarily perceive that their credit card that's on 0% is a debt because it's on 0% and I'm paying it off. But it's still or the sofa they bought from SCS or GF, still a debt. The car that you've got on finance, but you've got a company car allowance, still a debt. So I think it's about making sure that the advisors are one setting their clients' expectations and going through, because from that side of it, obviously, we're not involved in that very beginning part of the process.
At the beginning, yeah.
And for us, it's not something that we do at the moment, is we're not going to do a full review of your client's bank statements. We're going to put in the information that you've told us. So make sure that you've got all of that right information. Make sure that you've got all the bank statements that show, I've got it, we've got about 5 or 6 bank accounts between us to run our, personal lives.
Yeah.
You need bank statements for all of them. The lenders want all of them because if they can see money going from one account to the other, they want to know what's in that other account. So sometimes you'll get a case that flies through and the lender doesn't want any information at all. That's all good. But when they want it, they want all of it.
You've got to have it. So it's almost, I suppose it's having two processes at the beginning. Is the first one is to make sure that they understand we're going to be asking for a lot of things. But secondly, it's that education, and social media can be a huge part of that. It's almost a social media post that it seems very basic, and a lot of people wouldn't probably do this post, but let's do the jargon. What is debt? What is an AIP? What is a deposit? And that seems very, very trivial to a lot of the people listening. But it's because you deal with it in every day. I liken it to if I was to go to a mechanic and get the car looked over. If he started saying to me, right, say if I was 17 and it was my first car, right, you're having an MOT, we're going to change the calipers, we're doing an oil change, we need to check your alternator. I'd be like, well, mate, I don't have a clue what you're going on about. And that's, I think...
Yeah, it's a car, just make it run, make it go.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But if they can... If I knew about that terminology beforehand, you know what I mean? If I'd have been taught that beforehand, it would make the situation a lot less stressful. And I think that's what what mortgage brokers need to do to inform their clients.
I think we're still, a long way off. And, I think back to, I was 21 when I bought my first house, so I was really lucky. And even though it was probably just before I started working for the bank. And I remember going into Bath on a Saturday morning to get a mortgage. And the only reason my first mortgage was Santander, and the only reason I went into there was because I'd been into Halifax. The guy had a handshake like a limp lettuce, and said he couldn't see me for 2 hours. And I went into Santander, and the guy was like, yeah, fine, I can see you now. He was really nice. He was really friendly. He must have, honestly, best Saturday he'd ever had, because I took the mortgage, the life insurance, the income protection, the solicitor's referral. I had no idea what I'd done. All I knew is I wanted a house, and this man was going to get me a house.
Yep.
And I left it now. And now I look back and I think, gosh, that was irresponsible on every front, probably. And the fact that...
But irresponsible when not irresponsible in inverted commas, but that was what was out, the information that was available to you at the time. Yeah. There was, there was no YouTube videos you could watch. There was no influencers on social media.
You feel really old.
Don't mean that. But I think a generation that are looking for mortgages now are the ones that research things a lot more. Like mortgage brokers listen to this, will have somebody come to them and say, right, I've had a little look and I found that Santander on this rate is the best product for me. And then the mortgage broker digs a bit deeper and goes, well, you're a CIS worker and you've only been employed for, You've only had a year's worth of books. Well, that's only open to employed people that are doctors. Do you know what I mean? That's where mortgage brokers are. Yeah.
And I think
the value
clients is just such a big part of it. From that side of setting their expectations early. So like with protection, it's an awkward conversation, but sometimes you're going to have to turn around to somebody and say, due to your build, this is going to cost more. Better to have that conversation here than at the end of the process. And when somebody's going, well, you told me it was going to cost me £25 a month and now it's going to cost me £55 a month. Why is that?
If you've had that conversation, it's a lot easier to drop that pricing.
Everybody's expectations, I think, is really important in terms of getting your clients in the best position, and also getting your case in the best position. Because if everybody knows, or at least has an idea of what's going to happen, and you're signposting it along the way, everybody's happier. You haven't got somebody necessarily always calling up going, well, what's going to happen on this? Why haven't I had an update? If you've said, right, we're going to submit your application, you're going to get a notification that's been submitted, we'll confirm that that's all gone through. And then actually, you're probably not going to hear anything for a little while because there's going to be the valuation. When that's done, we'll let you know. It might not be for a week, but we'll let you know. So it's almost like setting those client expectations dead early of when those contact points and when those key points in the process are going to be. from every side, from an admin side and from a broker side and a client side. It eases everybody's pain because you know what's going to
I
happen.
love what Tamsin's talking about there. This isn't about admin. This is process-led running the business. And I think what would be really powerful, I'd love to see this from a broker, is you can use things like Active Campaign, which an email piece of software that can send out automatic emails at certain points. So, for example, Tamsin uses Smart Sheets. When that moves into the column of, say, the mortgage offer has been approved, there could be a video that gets sent out to them via email and says, look, the next conversation we're going to be having with you is a conversation about life insurance, kick, IP. And please make sure if you have life insurance through your business or kick, please make sure you got those details before your appointment. And as you said, signpost it. So then you're not then sat on the call and everyone's rushing about for bits of paper. You know what I mean? It's a much more valuable call. And that's what Tamsin's saying there is try and lead the client rather than just dropping things on them. But we're not here to talk about process. I'm not going to go on about processes because no, not at all. I think that's very valuable, but I want to try and extract as much wisdom from you as possible in terms of the admin side. So before we get into the next question, because I think the next question is a really, really good question. Before we get into that, what do you do to help clients? How can your company help mortgage brokers that are listening at the minute?
So I think when you're in a position that you're working till, and I think this is not unusual, till 2, 3 in the morning, and you're sending emails and you're trying to get everything together, and there gets a point where I think as a broker you are a victim of your own success often. You are too busy. Now, generally speaking, if you don't enjoy a task, it's going to take you longer. I say this to everybody. I despise ironing. Rarely do it, but there would be a big ironing pile in my corner. It's probably not going to take me very long if I did it as it goes.
Bit by bit, yeah.
Leave it. It takes you ages. I'm going to go make a cup of tea before I start it. I'm going to go and do this before I start it. So admin is going to take you longer if you hate it. And I've yet to meet a broker who loves or enjoys or
doing the admin side.
Wants to do their admin. It's a completely different skill set. So I think we can help in terms of it's taking that stress away, and people will hate it because they don't want to get it wrong, so they'll spend longer, they'll procrastinate on it because they want it to be perfect, and so we just give brokers time. We give you time. We give you time to grow your business, spend time with your kids, go to sleep, perhaps. Maybe
go to sleep. I love that one.
Go on holiday and not have to take your laptop. The best thing, I had a call from a broker yesterday, come back off a week's holidays, like I didn't take my laptop.
That's game changing, isn't it? When you can do that for the first time, I think you see real value in a service like that you offer.
Yeah, that's what we do. So we can help you grow your business, ease your stress, keep your business the same, but just ease your stress. And there's loads of different ways that we can do that.
I was going to say, how can you do it? Is it a one size fits all for clients? Can you pick and choose what admin tasks you do for them?
We've got a couple of different options. So we offer the sort of your traditional virtual assistant hourly rate support packages, where you would say they start at 8 hours a month. And for those 8 hours, we'll pretty much do whatever tasks you want us to do. But actually the majority of clients that we work with we've tried to chunk up the process in terms of specific tasks that we do. So for protection, we do quite a lot of power planning and pre-sales underwriting work. So that's one chunk. We can do that for you, and that costs this much. We can do your application submissions for you. That costs this much. We can do your case progression for you. That costs this much. And we can do your CRM input for you. That costs this much. Or if you just want your recommendation letters writing, that costs this much. So on a case-by-case basis, you can pick. For this case, I want you to do everything. Do the lot. That's fine. Crack on. Actually, though, for this case, it's only a product transfer, so I don't really want you to do the lender app because there isn't really one. Can you just do the CRM processing for me? There's no case progression to do. So brokers can pick and choose on a case-by-case basis how they want the support and how much support that they want. From
awesome. So they can pick and choose.
Popular way to work with us.
Definitely. I didn't know that. Like I see you, I just know you as an admin company, but I thought it was right. You employ us to do your admin, but instead it's actually where you can pick and choose how you want to make those cases. And the big question that I wanted to ask that I get asked by so many brokers is, when do I start to outsource? At what point does somebody turn around and go, I need help now?
I think there's not an absolute, life would be perfect, wouldn't it, if I could say, right, when you're
It's a
writing
perfect
5
answer.
mortgages a month, or what, we've worked with some firms that are only going to be writing maybe a mortgage a week. That's fine.
Okay.
That's them. That's the volume that they want to work with. They don't want to do the admin though. They just don't want to.
Okay. They just don't want to do it. Yeah, it's a good point. Some people just
it.
want to pay somebody else to do
Yeah,
that rather than do it themselves. Even if it might bring their profit levels down, it gives them the time back to do what they enjoy.
absolutely. And well, although what we tend to find a lot of our firms will do is they look at our fee, and then they look at their broker fee, and they work our fee into their broker fee.
Oh, okay. That's a good.
So
Never thought about that.
yeah, so there's lots, again, when it comes to sort of the financials of working with us for firms. We work with some bigger firms that maybe have got upwards of 10 advisors within them. And these firms will sit there and say, right, okay, for their advisors, when you reach this level, we will give you access to Tamed, and we will pay Tame's fees. So there's an aspiration there for the advisors that encourages them, I suppose, from that side. You can incentivize them to say, when you're writing this much business, we're going to give you this support and we'll fund it. If you want to use it before then, you fund it yourselves. There's other firms where we'll have an arrangement with the firm principal. We'll work, so our arrangement is always with the principal of the firm. So we'll work with the firm principal, and we might work with all the advisors that work underneath the firm, but the firm principal will then charge the advisors accordingly for the support that they've used. And for some firms, they'll just be one-man bands, and they'll just say, fine, just do it all for me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. Just do it.
It's quite similar actually with us. Yeah, just take it away. And that's sometimes we have a mix of, like you said, like one-man bands, one-woman bands that are just like, I know I need to be on social media, and I probably could do it myself, but I just don't have the mental capacity or creativity to want to do it. But then there are other firms where you've got the bigger ones where they're like, right, we'll all of our staff can use it, but we'll bill them accordingly. So it's quite similar. Now, the final question that I want to ask is, now we're recording this. Sorry.
So I was going to say that one of the other things
Tamsin, sorry, I think there was a bit of a lag. So no, you talk.
We'll do overflow support for firms as well. So sometimes if you've got a firm that are in a bit of a fix because somebody's gone off long-term sick or maternity leave, or they've lost a member of staff, to be able to sit there and say, actually, we've got Tamed in our back pocket, that when we've got that shortfall, we can call them in and they can just slot into the business and pick up the work. So loads of different ways.
So I don't know if everybody heard that. I don't know if it's my internet or if it's playing up, but Tamsin was talking there about how they can slot in when somebody says off on maternity leave or somebody's sick or paternity leave. You guys can slot in because they know the systems. You don't have to spend that time training Tamed up on your systems. They will know how to do it. And it's the same as if, I know a lot of brokers listening to this will be like, do I hire an admin member of staff? I don't want to commit to that much money every month. Well, what could be perfect is you get somebody like Tamed in who can help you to start and then realise how much workload you actually get back. And before we started the podcast, Tamsin was talking about how the majority of her clients leave because the business gets to a point where they're in a position where they can hire somebody in-house. And that's a great feeling, isn't it? To be able to help a business get to the point where they can give somebody else a full-time job and then you can move on to the next one. It's almost like a bittersweet thing, isn't it?
It is. It's ultimately, we like to help people. And I know it sounds a bit trite and but that's what we enjoy doing as a business. There is something lovely about getting that phone call from that person saying that they've been able to go off on holiday, or they just feel a relief because they know they don't have to do it. Times of people saying that, they dread actually writing business because they don't want to do the admin that sits off the back of it, or they don't enjoy the job anymore. because they don't want to do the paperwork.
Crazy, isn't it?
To be able to make life
that's
easier.
what admin can do to people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm actually only 25. That's what it's done to me.
So the final thing that I wanted to talk about is we're recording this in end of July, so this probably won't go live until about October time. But what have you seen lenders asking more about or asking for more of? And that might change by the time this podcast goes out, but it'd just be interesting to know what the trend is at the moment that lenders are asking for.
It's all about the bank statements. I'm going to say it again. All about the bank statements. Yeah, they're really going hard on the bank statements. So gambling is a big one as well at the moment. Okay. They're looking quite heavily into people that are gambling. They are looking, so we said about the references on the bank statements on there as well. Any big deposit, well, when we say big deposits, if somebody's got, I don't know, like £1,000 coming in because they might have organised a big family holiday, for instance, paid for it, and then everybody's paying them. They're seeing lots of regular payments into the account. They're going to ask what are they for, what that's about. So, or big lump sums.
Moving money is a big thing at the moment.
Money,
then,
yeah, really, really big thing on there. They're massively looking into that. Bonus is always going to be a big one as well. Always has been, always will be. Really make sure that you're aware of what your lenders are going to need in terms of bonus income. So if you've got somebody that's only being paid a bonus once a year, steps back into that customer journey side of things, make sure that they know that your customer knows they're probably going to have another one, maybe even another 2 years worth of pay slips, well, not years, but pay slips showing that annual bonus for 1 or 2 years. You've really got to understand, I suppose, ultimately a client is saying to a lender, hi, you've never met me before, can you give me £250,000?
Trust me. Yeah, trust me, it's fine.
It's all right, I'll pay it back. So I think that's for me, definitely it's all about the bank statements.
Really interesting. Love it. And I think we've never had anybody like yourself on the podcast before, so it's a completely different angle that mortgage brokers can think about. And all this information is coming from somebody that has experience in this very niche, very specific area. So really enjoyed our chat. Thank you very much. We'd like to make a £10 donation to a charity of your choice as a thank you for coming on. Which charity?
Cancer Research, please.
Cancer Research, we will make that donation for you. And where's best for people to contact you if they want to reach out and have a chat about the admin services?
So there's a contact us on the website. They can book a discovery call on there, or just Tamsin at Tamed or Tamed admin.co.uk.
Fantastic, yeah. Tamed or Tamed, it doesn't matter how you pronounce it, but it's spelt tamed, anybody listening.
Spelt tamed, yes.
Thank you very much for coming on, Tamsin. I really, really appreciate your time. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been lovely.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks.